joining me now is political editor from the Australian Financial Review, Phil Coorey. Phil, thanks for your time. We've seen over the years this cycle around a leader that's in trouble. If we went back a week to today, it's extraordinary to look at how much the coalition has made itself the story when the government had been under a lot of pressure over the last few months.
I was talking to someone yesterday about that. Yeah, they're saying like a week ago, the government was effectively on the mat. Well, not quite, but it was in all sorts, and it had sort of bent over backwards to get a deal in the Parliament. And then, like a week later, we're suddenly, Albanese's having a great time. And, we talk about, a possible spill motion next week, Kieran, on Tuesday. That's the day the Reserve Bank might actually lift interest rates. So talk about, based on the inflation figures we'll see tomorrow, but the markets are now shifting about 60% towards a rate rise next week. So they've gone from having this government in this sort of position where they flailed about in their response to Bondi and then could run headlong into a rate rise next week and just suddenly, it's all about the clown show.
I spoke to a Liberal yesterday who is not a supporter of Lee, but in terms of that timeline and suggesting that if they can manufacture it, so you have the meeting on, say, Monday, the new leader then can at least come in and make a run on the fact that there's been a rate hike.
Oh, I guess so, but it's all going to be about them, isn't it? I mean, there's a reluctance from a lot of people in the party to do anything next week. I've written it today. A few others have written it today that the moderates and what they call the marginals aren't convinced. Andrew Hastie and Angus Taylor have to work out amongst themselves who would be the candidate, and they're a long way from, I think, deciding that.
And they don't want to reward the Nats, do they?
No, and the moderates are saying that as well. I think some of the people on the right wing of the Liberal Party who just want to put in Andrew Hastie don't care. They'll deal with that if and when they have to. But there's still a lot of people going, hold on, this time last week David Littleproud told us to dump our leader. Are we really going to, be, no matter how you spin it, that's how it's going to look, right? So there's all sorts of complications, and in this, it's a real mess. No one actually can tell you what is going to happen in the next week. But I think ultimately, once this sort of talk starts cagey, it tends to only end up one way, doesn't it?
It does, and
it's just when it happens.
And the boost for the government is tenfold in the sense that. The other side's talking about themselves, the government's focusing on the big issues. The day of mourning, it also coincided with the best performance by the Prime Minister in the wake of that national tragedy with that address on the day of mourning, which was outstanding.
And again, yesterday's Australia Day address, so he finally found his line and length, and they've let him do it. Because he flowered about and gaslighted people all through January on the response to the tragedy in Bondi, and then as recently as the weekend before, two weekends ago, was offering the cult whatever you want. Had to get some. He disarmed all the traps he had set, and they still managed to trap themselves.
It trapped themselves and implode, which is just unbelievable. And then so we look to the week ahead. It's hard to predict just how it unfolds, if anything. It's a fortnight sitting week. So just when they're here and it becomes a febrile sort of environment, things can happen faster than we might have anticipated.
I've always said, like, politicians are like bogans. They're dangerous when they congregate, So if Susan Lee manages to squeak through the next fortnight, I think the second week is an estimates week, so maybe not everyone will be here, but then who knows? But at this stage, it looks like it may take a bit longer than some people would like.
Now, on another issue, I raised with Cam Redden, and you and I covered the first iteration of the Rudd push for UN Secretary General. My inclination is to think that it is, and from conversations I've had within the government, I think it's a real possibility that Kevin Rudd throws his hat in the ring again. Guterres wraps up at the end of this year, and the timing seems quite neat. And back to President of the Asia Society, which I mentioned to Cameron, the office is literally across the road from the United Nations.
Well, and it sort of hones his bona fides. I looked it up before I came on air, KG, because you mentioned it to me, but 4 people have nominated so far. They're all from South America, Argentina, Costa Rica, Bolivia and I think Brazil. And there tends to be a convention that certain parts of the world take turns, so I'm not sure whose turn it actually is, and it has to be sanctioned by the permanent members of the Security Council. So maybe another reason Rudd got out of Trump's line of sight. But no, look, I don't have any intel on it, but it's an entirely plausible theory. He told Albanese and Penny Wong in December he wanted out from the ambassador's job. So back at the Asia Society, it gives him, he can sort of schmooze people and stuff like that. I think it would be a perfectly reasonable thing for him to do, and I still think shame on the Liberal Party for blocking him last time, on the grounds that he was too mad or whatever what it was. I don't think they had a right to do that, especially as Labor backed Matthias Cormann into the OECD. So I assume it would have bipartisan support this time, Kevin Rudd may stop wars because anything to get him out of the country, Walking around with his blue helmet and his clipboard, so mate, just whatever. But no, he would do it well.
Julie Bishop, the last occasion when Rudd did signal this, she wanted to back him. Turnbull, I think his instincts were to, but the senior figures in the
cabinet he got stopped by the Conservatives, by Dutton and Morrison and Cormann, all those people. Yeah,
Which is interesting given where Cormann's headed.
Yeah, I know, and I think Penny Wong made that point when Labor supported Cormann for the OECD. He said, just remember, we're bigger than you. If we wanted to be small, we could have blocked you as revenge. So,
and as you said, there are a few other sort of mechanical and procedural things you've got to get over.
Well,
whose turn is it, and so on. But if there's a window, I think Rudd will take it.
Yeah, and don't forget we are also, Albanese launched last year our bid for the Security Council too, didn't he? I think when we were in New York. So you got to grease a lot of palms, not grease palms, but there's a lot of diplomacy involved, and Kevin's pretty good at it.
Yeah, he is.
Maybe they'll just give it to him to stop him asking.
It'd be quite a good dynamic, though, wouldn't it? That Trump in the White House, K. Rudd at the UN.
I do know there is a push from some of the Europeans for a female as well. So anyhow, let's just see.
That's one hurdle he can't jump.
Well, you can't these days.
Yeah, Phil, I appreciate your time. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.